Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've got a topic today that was on my mind and felt the urge to throw up the camera and talk about this. So let's talk about competition. So as you know, I have gone to music school, which is a very competitive environment, competing for roles. There's a limited amount of roles and a lot of singers. And the same applies to other musicians, of course. You know, if you're in the orchestra, if you're in the jazz program, there's a limited number of gigs and a lot of people vying for them. And so how do you deal with competition? What do you need to know about the business? And how do you continue in something that can be brutal at times and be real with yourself? Firstly, a lot of this applies. My experience, of course, is being a singer, going to school all the way through bachelor's, master's program, and doctorate level, and then out in the real world, actually getting out and auditioning for opera programs and things all over. A lot of this topic, rather, can be paralleled into just everyday life for people who may not be musicians, or just in your day-to-day, competing for jobs maybe. There's a position that's open and you want to go for it. It's very easy to get trapped in this idea of, because you're competing, you're in an environment that automatically pits you against your fellow singers. If you're of the same voice type especially, it can be difficult to make friends. Because you're going to be going up for the same part. There's a lot of jealousy and things that can happen. Now, I was lucky in my undergrad program that I really didn't have to deal with that very much. It was a very smaller program, but on top of that, it seemed to be a very genuine cultivation of good feelings towards the people around us. So we encouraged each other. We actually really had, at least from my perspective, my experience, a supportive environment. And, we urged each other to do things, and were excited for our friends when they would get up on stage or, perform in recitals and do a good job. We were rooting for them. Here's an example. So a story about a competition that I was in. Did this for at least 2 years, maybe 3. I'd have to really dig deep in my memory to pull it forward. But I do remember one of those years, want to say maybe 7 or 8 of us competing in this competition at our university when I was doing my undergrad. We had one male that year, one tenor, and the rest of us were all sopranos and mezzo-sopranos. So I believe, if I was going to say, it was like 7 girls and 1 guy. We're all backstage, we're nervous, we're talking, trying to keep the nerves down. Basically, we get out there, we sing our aria, and we get graded, and at the end there's a winner, and there was a money prize. I believe it was $500 for this. And so we're all backstage, and we've worked on our repertoire for quite a while, and we're excited, we're nervous, a little scared. And our male counterpart just looks at all of us in his gay way. Loved him. Beautiful voice. And he says, "Look, I love you guys, but I came here to win, and I'm taking that money." And we were all just shocked for a second. Everybody got quiet, and we were like, whoa, he was dead serious. He was not playing. And I'll be damned if he didn't walk out there and own that shit in a way I've never seen. And he did. He won, like, hands down. He was just like, yeah, I love you guys, but I'm going to leave you in the dust. And that was the attitude he had, and that is the performance that he gave, and it is what it is. Couldn't fault him for it. Of course, disappointment when you don't win. It happens. Next year, of course, we're set up. Like I said, we got to be real here. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to win. So what do I got to do? I've got to work my ass off, and I got to go out there, and I got to own this shit. So I had a year to plan. I picked 2 arias that were very contrasting. One of them was very difficult and had a lot of, fluid movement, very fast. Probably not something that I'd actually be cast in, at this stage, but worked very, very hard on it. And then another aria that was very dark and broody and had a very, it was Baba's aria from The Medium. So it had a lot of character in it and acting that needed to be done. And while it wasn't difficult vocally until you get to the weird cackling, laughing part at the end, very emotional performance. And so I basically set myself to this idea that if I wanted to hit that bar, if I wanted to go over that bar, I had to put the work in, I had to bust my ass, and I just had to go out there and I had to own that stage. And that's what I did. And I happened to win that year. These are lessons that I've learned in other competitions that I've been in. I know when I go out on the stage, whether I'm nailing it or I'm not. Sometimes the nerves get a hold of me and the performance just isn't where I needed it to be. I've sat and adjudicated and I've watched performances, and you can tell, you just know when that person on stage is just locked and they're just solid and, they own it. And it takes an enormous amount of dedication and thick skin, very thick skin. It's really easy to take it to heart when you don't hit the mark that you wanted to hit, when, someone else, gets the role that you really, really wanted. It hurts a little. You gotta be able to lick your wounds, and then you gotta be able to sit back and assess and go, okay, what do I need to do next? And then execute, do the thing. I have run into people, though, that were unable to look inward, to look into themselves as to why they weren't getting the role. And I'm not going to say that it hasn't come across my mind at times. Our first instinct is to say, well, I wasn't feeling good that day, or I was distracted, maybe the night before I didn't get enough sleep. And these are just ways of our mind and our ego trying to kind of come up with reasons or excuses as to why we didn't do our best performance, when really that isn't it. You can be sick as hell. I have another video that talks about that, and still get up there and own that. I had parts of my voice that just weren't even hours before, weren't even there. Snot running down my face. Hopefully they couldn't see it because they were up in the balcony doing their judging. It was pretty gross. But I had worked and worked and worked. I knew that role, and I just went up there and I just forgot about all of the other bullshit. And it was all about the performance. And you've got to get to that level, and you've got to be honest with yourself when you're not at that level. I have blown juries. Juries are basically like your final for performance. You get up and you perform. You hand them 6 songs that you've been working on, and they pick 2 of them, sometimes 3, and then you perform them. I have absolutely boned a jury a couple times. And it's just embarrassing. And when you walked out of there, you didn't work on it enough. You didn't have it solid. You didn't have your memorization done, except maybe the week before or maybe the night before, done that. And then you have to walk away and you have to go, do I really want this? Is this important to me? Because if it is, you're going to put the work in. You're going to kick your own ass to get it done. And that's really where you've got to have that conversation. Are you in it to win it? Because if you are, it's got to be everything. In the sense of competition, you've worked your ass off. You did the work. You're ready. You get out there and you're sitting outside of a big auditorium room, or you're, whatever. So you're sitting there and you're surrounded by other singers. You can hear some of them warming up. I hate that, by the way. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it really does. It just starts getting in my head. You start judging yourself and critiquing your voice compared to theirs and stuff. And it's not good, not good mindset. And you're nervous. And if you let that creep in to your head, you are going to have a bad time. You have to stay grounded. You have to stay focused. You have to stay positive. Try and block out, the other stuff. And you get in there and you do the work. Are you going to get the role? Maybe. Maybe not. There are a lot of factors that go into things beyond, or behind the scenes. Maybe you don't fit the role the way that the director wants it. Maybe somebody came in and did a better job. Maybe they liked that sound better than yours. Does that mean you did a bad job? Not necessarily. It just might be that they're looking for something else. You don't need to beat yourself up. You know if you did it right or not, in most cases. It takes a bit of maturity to get to the level where you know whether or not it was a good performance. Maybe for some younger, or lesser experienced, musicians, They might not have gotten into that level of awareness yet. Definitely want to record yourself. Maybe not at the audition. That's kind of a weird thing, trying to set up a camera or something to record your audition. But definitely record yourself in practice as though you were auditioning so that you can really get a good look at it. And you got to look at it from an objective place and see where improvements need to be made. Watch master classes, watch other performers in a setting where they're being critiqued. At the end of the day, the idea is that you get out there, you give it your best, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And that's just the way the business works. You got to be tough. You got to take your lumps when they come. You got to be able to tell yourself when you're not doing the job the way that you should be doing it, and get out there and keep working at it and do better. I know that in Discord, there have been shows that we have done that have been great. The sound was great. Everything went just without a hitch. And there are other shows where we had issues with the sound. I wasn't in full voice, or, there was something going on, or, it happens. And we go back and we talk about it after the fact, and we go, all right, next time, here's what we need to do differently. We move on with being really honest with ourselves and knowing what we need to do and what we need to do better, and setting that bar higher every single time. So how does this tie into day-to-day for those maybe who aren't musicians? Maybe it has to do with a position at a job that you're wanting to move into. Maybe it has to do with, business. And you have a business and you have competitors. So in a sense of, business, let's talk about that. Let's say you own a flower shop and you've, been doing it for a while. You have, patrons that come in and customers and so forth, and you do arrangements for them. And a little ways down the road, another flower shop opens up. Okay, it's a big, fairly decent sized city. There's enough clientele for both to, do flower arranging. Is it going to impact your business? Maybe a little bit, maybe not. You have to look at it as though, okay, well, so now what are some things that you can do that will bring in clientele? There's enough clientele for everybody. So maybe you have a different style of flower arranging than the person down the street. And you play to that strength maybe. And you advertise a little bit differently, or you come up with just different ideas and different ways to draw business. Maybe your customer service, you network with people a little bit more to keep, the business that you have. Or there isn't any reason to be threatened by another flower shop that opens up. I mean, you could get upset about it. You could think that, this is the worst thing. And Coke and Pepsi been around a long time, and they, some people are Coke people, some people are Pepsi people. I'm a Dr. Pepper person personally, but that's just how it is. And it hasn't hurt either one of them. They're still doing their thing and, giving people the diabetes. So it is what it is. There's enough to go around, and there isn't any reason to be threatened by that or upset in that environment. When you're in a competition as, a performer, that's a world that you stepped into where there's competition. Does that mean you're never going to get a gig? No, it doesn't. It means that you have to do the work to get that gig. And some gigs are going to work out and some aren't. And some may not be based on your talent at all. Some might just be based on circumstance and what the person who is the director or the person that is booking the gig is looking for. All of this is to say that competition is a part of life. It is, in some form or another, going to affect everyone. And in certain cases, maybe more so when you put yourself out there in a world where competition is the norm. I think it's really important that we don't tear other people down that are competitors. Everybody's trying to get where they're trying to get. And while we may be competing, it doesn't necessarily have to make people enemies. It doesn't mean that somebody's out to get the other person, or, that we're trying to, do a Tanya Harding break somebody's legs in the ice skating competition. So I think it's important to understand that competition can be a healthy thing. It can be something that can help you grow, help you push yourself to a higher place. And everybody's just trying to live their dream, do their, the thing that they're passionate about. And there's room in the world for everybody in doing that. If you come at things with the wrong kind of mindset and believe that people are out to get you, then maybe you need to reevaluate your personal situation. It's really just all about how you look at things and how you carry yourself. That's all I've got to say about that. If you have any personal experiences and or stories that you want to drop about competitions that you've been in or thoughts that you have on the video, I would love to hear them. Go ahead and drop those down in the comments for me. And until next time, thanks for listening to my little rant, and I love you all. Stay spooky, my friends.